The base is dropped on another edition of SDH AM. I'm Jason Longshore, crashing the party for John Nelson, who's off being fancy at Augusta National for the practice rounds of the Masters, the par three contest, all the fancy stuff. I'm not that fancy. I'm here with you guys this morning. And it's kind of crazy that wasn't quite sure where we were going to go. We know Tyler Pilgrim's going to join the show here in just a bit. We know Dylan Butler's going to join the show. It's Wednesday. There's Champions League going on. We're definitely going to talk about Declan Rice and his free kick exploits. We'll talk about the games today. We'll talk CONCACAF. We'll talk about Copa Libertadores and Sir Second Alexander Castle, and not just the pink suit, but his first touch. We'll talk about all of that. But as I'm getting ready and I'm kind of figuring out where I want to go, what I want to get into, what I want to cover today, then, this happens. Breaking news with Tom Bogert reporting from Give Me Sport that the Columbus Crew have found their attacking designated player that we all were wondering what they were going to do when they sold Cucho Hernandez. And I think that was the right move at the right time for the right person and to the right place. No question with that. And look, Columbus has answered all the questions that we had about how they're going to play and what it's going to look like. But you knew they were going to get somebody. You knew they were going to go out into the market and find an attacking designated player to make this team better. Well, they did. And they didn't find it from outside the league. They found it from inside the league. And they found it with the Philadelphia Union. Daniel Gazdag is reportedly heading to Columbus in one of the cash trade deals in Major League Soccer. This is fascinating on so many different levels because both teams have been good this year. Both teams have been maybe surprisingly good this year. So, what does this do to both? For Columbus, it gives you that extra attacking player to go with Diego Rossi, to go with Jason Russell Rowe, to go with your attacking wingbacks in Arston and Farsi, and it makes you even more dangerous going forward. Now, Gazdag is not a Cucho replacement. And that's the thing about Wilfred Nancy is I don't think he's looking for a Cucho replacement. He's looking for another attacking weapon. So how does Wilfred get the best out of Gazdag? I want to see Gazdag in a system that values the ball as opposed to what we've seen with Philadelphia Union over the years. I think that's another interesting element of this. He can play. So does he give you some of that counter pressing that Columbus can always use to get better on that side of the ball? But can he give you that clinical ability in the attacking half and put goals in the back of the net? Diego Rossi needs a little more support. Aziel Jackson has done pretty well. I mean, he was actually the best of the attacking trio in the last match alongside Jason Russell Rowe. Gazdag's an upgrade. Gazdag is a big upgrade there. So Gazdag, Russell Rowe, and Rossi likely leading the line for Columbus. And then you go over to the Philadelphia side of it. And this is a team that has been much better than anyone thought. They have 4 wins out of 7, 2 losses, 1 draw on the season, a loss and a draw in the last 2. You take Gazdag out of that team, and then what does it look like? Ty Baribo has been off to a great start. You have a lot of new faces. You have a lot of players that I think you're still getting to know at this level. Bradley Carnell has been rotating pieces like Alejandro Bedoya did not start the last match. Mikel Uwa did not start the last match. Indiana Vasilev, a player who came over from St. Louis with Carnell, did not start the last match. Is it Vasilev who comes in to replace Gazdag? Do you go to Uwa and move the other pieces around a little bit? Do you go to 2 up top? I'm intrigued to see the Philadelphia side of it, but this is part of the rebuild that they are undergoing with Jim Curtin out, Carnell in, different variations of the way that the team wants to play in their low possession pressing style, but it's different under Carnell. Gazdag taking him out of it, how do you replace his offensive production? Who's going to take penalties? Because Gazdag has been the penalty merchant as of late. How do you make all this work for the Philadelphia Union? It's going to be really, really intriguing on both sides of it. But it's a move that I think makes a ton of sense for Columbus. And I do want to see what Philadelphia does down the line now. Because, look, they've added a lot of cash. in this new league mechanism with being able to take transfer fees from inside the league. Jack McGlynn went to Houston. Gazdag goes to Columbus. Have not seen any amounts on this one yet, but you would have to assume with Gazdag valued on transfer marked at $9 million, maybe 9 million euro. I'm not sure where my conversion was on that. It's got to be significant, right? You would expect that Philadelphia would be holding out for a pretty good chunk of money here. How much is it? And then what do they do with it? Where do they go to reinvest this? And what does the Philadelphia Union look like under Bradley Carnell as it starts to really become his team? Rich Ransom is in the chat. I would really like to hear what Rich has to say about this one because I am quite intrigued by the Philadelphia Union side of it. And we're getting a little bit of that. He doesn't fit the Cardinal system. He was still contributing. That part I don't understand. Yeah, I'm a little confused by it too, Rich. He's a player in Gazdag who has always been interesting to me in that Philadelphia way of he's been productive. I think he's a player who can play in a Columbus system. They're not exactly polar opposites, but pretty different in terms of one wanting the ball and one wanting less of the ball. So that's going to be a significant change. But I think Gazdag has the ability to do that. It's the Philadelphia side of it that maybe is the most surprising for me, or maybe the most unknown is the better way to put it. I don't want to say surprising. I'll say unknown in terms of how they replace him and what they do. Yeah, Philadelphia is going to go get Thomas Mueller and Kevin De Bruyne. That's what's going to happen. Sure. Philadelphia. Yeah. Rich, I got you. Um, it's an interesting move that I did not see coming. I had not heard any whispers of anything like this. Tom Bogert dropping bombs this morning with Gazdag going to Columbus. And in terms of the balance of power in the Eastern Conference, the door was maybe opening for Columbus this year with the moves that they made to for things to change a little bit. Miami's been great so far. They have not lost in MLS competition. They've lost one game in all competitions, and that was the LAFC, and they get a chance for revenge tonight. We'll talk plenty about that. But Columbus has been in the regular season over the past few years. I think a little bit of the standard bearer for the non super friends way of putting together a top team. Maybe that was going to slip. Not anymore. And it didn't really anyway. They have not lost in all competitions. 4 wins, 3 draws, 2 straight wins here. Philadelphia's third in the East, though. So the East right now, just to reset. I mean, we're 7 games in. We're starting to get into that area of who's what, who has more to show. I think Atlanta's in that category. Who is maybe punching above their weight, and this is the best that they will be this season. Is Philadelphia in that conversation? I don't think Columbus and Miami are. I think Columbus and Miami are contenders in the East. Columbus has re-emerged. Like I had them in the half step down tier after the Cucho sale at the beginning of the season. You add Gazdag and what we've seen from Wilfred Nancy in managing this group. They're not. They're in the elite tier. Atlanta's not in the elite tier. I thought they could be with the moves they made in the offseason. They're not right now. They can be. They have the talent to be. They haven't put it together yet to get to that tier. Charlotte, 2 points off of Columbus for the top of the East. I think they've had some good fortune, but they've won 3 of their last 4. So I mean, we can sit here and talk about luck. 3 wins out of your last 4 is good no matter how you're getting it. Cincinnati is a little bit of an enigma. They're 2 points back from Columbus. I haven't been all that wowed by Cincinnati, but they had CONCACAF at the beginning as well. How do they look now? 3 unbeaten, 2 straight wins. So let's see what Cincinnati continues to be. Orlando started a little slow, 4 straight unbeaten right now. Chicago, they lost last time out, but this is a team under Greg Berhalter that should be taking a step forward. Red Bulls have been a little more disappointing than I expected. 3-2-2. They're in 8th in the East right now on 11 points. I think they'll be higher in the table the further we go. Nashville has been up and down. They started bad, and then when they had a run of 3 straight wins, everybody forgot how they started. Well, now they've lost 2 in a row, and Walker Zimmerman is out for a while, that's going to be a big issue for Nashville. They're a work in progress, and I think they always have been. Even when they won 3 in a row, they're still a work in progress. So let's hold the phone on Nashville. They're in the last playoff spot though. Atlanta's 1 point back. Atlanta's got to put the pieces together. They haven't quite yet. We'll talk to Tyler Pilgrim about that here in just a second. NYC, disappointing. Last 2 losses in a row. DC's lost 3 in a row. New England has won 1 all season. Toronto played their best game in the draw with Miami. They've drawn their last 2 to get to their 3rd point of the year. They still have not won a match. And Montreal has not won either. They have drawn 2 this season. The East is an interesting one. Let's see what Tyler Pilgrim thinks about the East now that we have a new player moving to one of the major contenders. What's up, Tyler? How are you this morning?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm a little shocked by Tom Bogert dropping bombs on us with Daniel Gazdag going to the Columbus Crew.
Yeah, it popped up multiple play. I got hit all at the same time by a handful of notifications, and everybody's like, "Oh, just when you thought Philly couldn't make any more strange moves, here we are."
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, Bradley Carnell's different than Jim Curtin, so you kind of have to expect, even though like you want to go big chalkboard. Yeah, they're in the same section of the chalkboard, but they go about what they want to do differently. So you would expect that some guys who might have fit Curtin might not fit Carnell, vice versa. So you've got work to do there to rebuild this roster. But this is a team in Philly that I don't know what the number is going to end up being. I mean, more than 5 million, I would assume. He's valued at 9 on Transfer Markt. Internal cash doesn't always exactly relate to that, and we're still figuring that market out. 5 to 8, I think, is a number that I would feel pretty safe in guessing. You
Yeah,
added a decent bit for Jack McGlynn, even though some of that's got to go to the New York teams as well.
yeah,
Philly's got cash to work with now, and Carnell's got some of his guys that have already made the move over, like Indiana Vasilev. And they've been good. That's the thing, is they've been good this season. So
very good.
what do they do to get better now that they've moved a piece that maybe was the square peg round hole kind of situation? The Philly side of it, I think Columbus is going to be better. I think Gazdag can work in that system. I want to see it. I want to see Gazdag with more of the ball. I think that's going to work. That's a little easier to see. The Philly side of it, I want to see what they do from here, and do they take a step back to try to get 2 steps forward?
Yeah, and I guess it's just kind of odd too because I think we started off this season thinking, "Wow, Philly has probably had one of the weakest off seasons of just about any team." It was very nonchalant. It seemed right, and then the whole coaching situation and everything else. But then they come into the league, and I mean, they're admittedly right now one of the better teams overall, at least looking at the standings. But then you move on from Gazdag, who has 2 goals and 2 assists,
Mhm.
and it's like I'm just trying to figure out the mindset behind it, and I don't know that we'll ever figure out Philly's mindset, honestly. But
Yeah. Yeah, Ernst Tanner will he'll throw some surprises at you.
yeah,
It sounds like he's coming out and talking a little bit more about the end of times with Jim Curtin, and or at least alluding to being very happy that those times are over, which is interesting when you
yeah,
get those kinds of things going on. But I think with Bradley Carnell and Rich Ransom is killing it for us in the chat with the Philly perspective. Says that Gazdag was better central than out wide, being in that 4-2-2-2. Not really that fit. Okay, so you'll go get a fit for that, and as we have this conversation all the time in MLS, and especially with a team like Philly, the players that might be that fit might not be somebody that we're super aware of. It could be somebody from, and Tanner's had success with this. It could be somebody from German lower divisions. It could be somebody from Belgium or the Netherlands. Somebody who knows this style of play
it's a
and is a
niche
fit.
kind of thing for sure.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. It's the right kind of fit. So they have the money to work with, and I think in this kind of market, they won't have any issue getting whoever their target is. And my assumption, correct me if you think I'm wrong here, is that they do this move now with getting somebody before the window closes. I don't think they're going to go into the summer sitting on this cash.
Yeah, no, I think with the success, I think it would be different if it was already like you're 7 games in and you're kind of floundering and struggling, but you wanna keep the momentum, like, because this is
I
a
agree.
risk. You're taking a guy he's been a part of the club for a long time,
Mhm.
um, and he's got numbers to show for the games that they've played so far, and you're moving on from him because I believe you think that you can find somebody that's gonna fit exactly what Carnell wants a little bit better. So it is a risk, and I think, yeah, you've gotta see a quick turnaround on this to get somebody in place to provide something. Maybe it's not the goals and assists, but maybe it's just completing the flow of the game better, holding the game state the way that they want to better. But I don't think you sit and wait. I think that would be insane.
Yeah, I don't think it's moving Gazdag just purely to play Indiana Vasilev or to play
Right.
somebody who's right now on your bench, but on the outside looking in that you think is a better fit. I think you have to go, maybe you go get to a different position. Maybe you like Vasilev replacing Gazdag and then you want to go upgrade somewhere else. Sure, that could work.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're going to go upgrade here somewhere with money to spend. And we've had this conversation when it comes to Atlanta. I was talking to some French journalists who were in town this weekend covering Latte Lot and getting to know Tristan William Baugh and Jamal TRA and the stories around Atlanta United. And for them, I think it was a big surprise that Atlanta spent what they did on Latte Lot. And what I said was, it's not a surprise if you know Atlanta's history, but even more importantly, it's not a surprise if you go back and you see what they brought in the summer. So they had money to spend and they spent it. Philly's got money to spend now. Do they spend it? And I would hope so, but you know, we're talking about a club that hasn't really spent a
Yeah.
whole lot over the years.
I mean, this is one of those moves too, though, that kind of feels like you almost have, the new furniture bought before you got rid of the old furniture kind of thing. It it,
A little
it seems
bit.
like he's got an idea in mind.
I would
I
hope
would
so.
hope. I would
Yeah.
very much hope. But we'll see because Philly's done over the past calendar year when it comes to trades and, you know, buying and selling and all that good stuff. They've made some odd decisions. So we'll see. But I just feel like there's got to be the second part of this has got to come sooner than later.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I'm looking at transfer history for Daniel Gazdag. Talking about 1.6 million euro. Throw 2 million just as a round number here is what they paid for him. You're getting a great return, and
Yeah.
that's full credit to Philadelphia for pulling that off. And that's the idea of the system. But this is why the idea of selling and then going back to buy is how you build teams. You now have more money to spend. So you spent 2 to bring in Gazdag. All right, now you can like shop in a little bit better store and go spend 5 or spend 6. That's where you start to upgrade your team. And you're also doing that little bit different style of play with Bradley Carnell, and you're looking for some different things so you can upgrade and maybe get a better fit for Philadelphia. So we'll see. And I'm sure there's going to be more about it. I guess the biggest thing I'm waiting on is the price. I
Yeah.
want to see what the number is going to be for Philadelphia. But let's go bigger picture in the Eastern Conference. We're not quite at the quarter pole here in MLS. Who has stood out to you positively or negatively in the East?
Well, I mean, the easy one here is Philly because I had them pegged very low.
Mhm.
Admittedly, there's going to be receipts out there for that one for sure. But
Oh, yeah, no, I'm saying that
yeah,
look, that's life.
yeah,
Like,
it's
welcome
part
to
of.
MLS. People get predictions wrong.
Oh yeah, just a little bit,
It's tough.
just a little bit. Philly for sure. Um, that's the big one. I think. I mean, Toronto and Montreal. I think we kind of pegged would struggle, so that one doesn't surprise me too much.
I think Montreal the Montreal Joey Saputo woke up on the wrong side of the bed and fired Laurent Courtois, which I
Yeah,
think was a bad move.
me too.
6 straight on the road to start. You knew it would be rough for them. I do think they're a better team than where they are in the table. I don't know now that Courtois is out, so I'm much more in a wait and see. Let's find out what Montreal is going to turn into. I really liked what Courtois was doing. I hated that he got fired.
Me too.
I
It
want to
wasn't his
see what
fault.
they turn into. No, I mean, he's got limited talent, and I thought he had them punching above their weight, and then 6 on the road to start. Like you hit a wall at some point in that where it's just difficult. I mean, I think
Yeah,
back to Atlanta United last summer after Valentino took over, and you had the sequence where it was New England midweek, Salt Lake City on the weekend. back home for Open Cup on a Tuesday after coming back from RSL, and then Montreal on the Saturday. And I mean, you're sleepwalking. Like
Yeah.
I was sleepwalking. I didn't play, and I was sleepwalking. So you just hit a wall of travel, and it's hard. So I think Montreal could be better, but I don't know if they're a playoff team this year, especially without Courtois.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem is that was absolutely a premature
Yeah,
kind of decision, I really
that's
feel,
where I'm at.
because I think Montreal could work their way up, and it's MLS, like, I mean, you mentioned it, we're not quite at the quarter mark yet, and none of what we say right now really is gonna matter in October, probably. Now, there's, I think, a handful that you could probably say, "Alright, well, unless something drastic changes, they're gonna be down at the bottom."
Mhm.
New England, which I say that cautiously considering Atlanta's about to play them this
Yeah,
weekend.
don't jinx it.
Yeah, knock on wood. Um, Toronto, I thought, like, they played Miami, and I thought the result that they got is about the best that they could hope for,
Yeah,
because
really
that's just
impressive.
how they're playing right now, you know?
Mhm.
Um, besides that, Chicago, kind of, I mean, I know they went on a little bit of a run, and I kinda heard you talking about Nashville as well before I got on, like, Nashville had a little bit of a run, and now they're kind of,
Yeah,
evening back out. I feel like
that run was
Chicago's.
fool's gold for me.
Yeah,
I'm not seeing it with Nashville yet.
yeah, and I'm not convinced on Chicago yet,
Fair.
and also, I don't, when I look at the standings, I don't take much stock at this point in the season anyway, but you gotta look at wins, and you gotta look at maybe some of the mentality behind some of those wins. Chicago's had some that, maybe some teams don't get. Maybe the mentality was a little bit better than I thought it was gonna be under Berhalter. So, um, and then I gotta give a quick shout out, as much as it pains me to do so, I gotta give a shout out to Charlotte. I think they're playing good football.
Hmm. I think they're playing what they wanna play. I don't know if I'd call it good, but that's just me.
The
That's
it's
a
their style,
yeah,
and
that's a
it's working.
taste thing.
Yeah,
It's not something as people who've known me over the years, Rich, cover your ears. I don't like Philadelphia's style. I give them credit. I didn't like Jim Curtin's style at all, but they won with it.
yeah.
So,
That's a
like,
better way of putting it, for
yeah,
sure.
I would not call Charlotte good football. I think they can be better. I'd like to see them play more. I think they've been a little fortunate at times.
Yeah,
I think this past game is a prime example. They're getting pretty, not comprehensively, but they're getting outplayed by Nashville, who I'm lukewarm on. And Walker Zimmerman has the unfortunate injury and the game turns, which is expected
right.
in that moment. So, they've Charlotte has been good in moments. I'm not bought in on Charlotte yet. But you look at the East and, for all the chat and the conversation, I think your top 11 are separate from DC, New England, Toronto, Montreal. So,
Yeah,
okay. Your top 11 that goes down to NYC, they're 7 points out of first. Atlanta's outside of a playoff spot right now. They're 2 wins out of first. Like,
yep.
they're 6 points out. It's so jumbled, and I think it's probably gonna be that way for a while. Now, where people fall in the jumble will move around, but you've got 6 points separating first through 10th. It's gonna be tight. I don't think there's gonna be a ton of separation in the East.
Yeah, and I think as a fan, sometimes you kinda get in that mindset later on in the season where you're like, "Man, it would just be nice if my team could go on a winning streak, 2, 3, maybe 4 wins in a row," and it's like that in the Eastern Conference, especially post-COVID,
Mhm.
that is not an easy thing to do. The Eastern Conference in MLS is very good, and it's also MLS, so you expect a lot of, up and downs, you expect a lot of shocks. I mean, we can sit here and beat the dead horse about Atlanta versus Miami in the playoffs last year, like, things like that happen. Toronto and Miami.
Yeah,
Miami should have rolled Toronto,
on
but that,
paper.
yeah, yeah, exactly, but that's just how it goes sometimes. But yeah, I agree. I think overall, the Eastern Conference is still much stronger than the West. The West is, has some standouts. I think maybe the gap has closed just a little bit this year, but ultimately, it doesn't matter until MLS Cup, right? And then,
Yeah.
uh, in a way, if you're looking at the supporter shield, the Eastern Conference does kind of shoot itself in the foot if you're a overarching Eastern Conference fan, because it's a gauntlet and they're going to kill each other. And yeah, I always like that graph that I think MLS puts out occasionally. I don't know if they do it anymore, where it's like a time lapse of like all the teams on a
Yeah.
graph, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
goes across, and you just see everybody doing all this, and it looks like somebody's having, like, AFib in their heart.
Yes. Yes.
Um, that just shows how wild it is. So, yeah, I think DC, who they're they're struggling, and the San Jose game
DC
didn't.
have set Troy Lesane up for failure, and
100%. That
I
is a
hate it for
cultural problem.
Lesane 'cause I think he can be a good young manager in this league, but, the move getting Click off that roster, but still on the roster and moving him out was basically a sign that, "Hey, Troy, we're not gonna give you anything to work with.
Yeah,
If
good
you
luck.
can make sandwiches out of it, great, but you're probably gonna get fired at the end of the season."
Yep.
Like, and that stinks. That stinks. That stinks for a manager.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things I talked about on Monday. DC, that's a cultural thing at this point, and it is hard to
They're
see because
broken.
DC. What's that?
They're broken. They're they're
Yeah, they're
just
100% broken.
they're just broken at the moment, and it's gotta be frustrating for DC fans because, I mean, you're talking about the first heavyweight in the
Yep,
league, alongside the LA Galaxy, and you compare the 2, the Galaxy have had waves of good and bad, but the Galaxy have been ambitious throughout. You can never say that they have not been ambitious. You
yep,
can question moves and what worked and what didn't and all that, but they've been ambitious where DC hasn't. And I think what's maybe so surprising about DC right now is you have Christian Benteke, who is one of the best strikers in the league, one of the best strikers that you could bring into the league. He's a monster in the air, and you're just not doing enough to exploit what you have to work with. Having a striker who is that good, this is why it's so rare when you have like a golden boot winner in a league on a team that doesn't make the playoffs.
yeah,
Because it's not, and I was saying this on 92.9 The Game with Dukes and Bell this week. It's not like the quarterback position in the NFL where if you don't have a quarterback, you're not winning. Like you can win up to a point, but that ceiling is real low.
yeah,
Having a goal scorer like that, an elite goal scorer, it's not quite the same. You can win in other ways. But I think the reverse is what surprises me. If you have an elite goal scorer and you're not winning, what are you doing? Like how?
yeah.
It's just shocking. And the way that team's been built, it's crazy, but
Well,
we'll see.
they a striker in general is only gonna be typically as good as the service that is provided to him,
Typically.
and, I mean, you look at guys, and I'll for everybody that saw the game this past weekend, the Atlanta game, I mean, you look at what Latte Loff did a couple of times where he not only does he make it to the ball that is sent to him, he wins it, makes it around the defender, and then is able to put in a cross, admittedly to nobody, but he did, like, all the hard work, and sometimes, that's what a striker has to do, but that shouldn't be what the striker is. That's not their job entirely. You have to have help, right? And I think for Benteke, like Atlanta, Latte Loth has help. He's got
Yeah,
service.
it's
That's
help.
not a problem.
That's chemistry coming together. And
Yeah,
I watched that like yesterday on the backfield. It was very cool to go over and hear Kenny Miller and some of the things he was wanting that attacking quartet to do, and Latte Lot checking to the ball and then spinning off
yep,
and involving the opposite winger in movement. It was very cool to see it. This is something that you've got 4 players who had no time in preseason together,
yep,
no understanding of one another before the season started. I think Miguel Almiron, for all that we're talking about with guys getting going, Miguel Almiron hasn't really gotten going, and I think some of it is down to playing time because he's getting a lot more now than he was before. So like your body's got to get back in rhythm. Your mind has to get back in rhythm. The international week he played 3 games, 2, and then traveled back and then played and he looked it.
yeah,
And that's not something we're used to seeing, but he probably hadn't done that in 3 or 4 years.
yep,
So like he's got to get going. He's got to figure out where he can be effective. Saba is recalibrating. Moranchuk is recalibrating. I thought when he came on after dealing with the adductor injury, I thought he was great when he
yeah,
came on Saturday. The cross to TRA nearly won the match. And Lati Lot, the thing that I love about him is what you said. He is a striker who will do the not sexy work. he's going to run. He's going to press. He's going to defend. He's going to make runs off the ball. At times, I feel like he could be a little more selfish. He's
Yeah.
always looking to bring others into the game. So, all those pieces, it should fit given it time. It should. You just don't know how fast.
Yeah. And then you look at a team like DC, and it's like you don't expect that to fit, right? Because it's just not
It's
built
not the
that
same
way at this point.
pieces.
It is an incohesive roster entirely.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, Atlanta, I think a lot of it is just that, some of the guys need to be a little more selfish. Not to make it all about Atlanta necessarily, but
Yeah. No, no.
I think, yeah, 100%. You have the talent up there, and was it 2 weeks ago? I think it was. Um, I had a quick chat with Dyla as we were walking from the press conference room to the locker room,
Mhm.
just kind of in passing, and he was just like, "It's just he kind of mumbled, it's just the
Yeah.
fitness and the chemistry,"
Yeah.
and
Yep.
which I think, I mean, 100% because for everything that we talk about preseason, especially the way that Dyla does his preseasons and the fitness level that he wants, I think everybody kind of has in their head, which is it's easy to get in this mindset that like, all right, preseason, by the end of preseason, by opening day, February 22nd, everybody should be at 110% peak fitness and be ready to go. But that's not how it is. It is,
That's not realistic.
yeah, it's not. But I think it's easy to kind of get in that mindset of like, all
Sure.
right, well, you've done everything you should be able to do. And now,
Yeah.
if opening day, you're ready to go. Um, but that's just not it.
No.
It takes more time. It takes getting in like the rhythm that you talked about. And um, how many times this year have we heard the players? Latte Latte said it. Miggy said it. Saba said it. Like all of them have talked about Miranchuk and Saba being, roommates down in Florida,
Mhm.
talking about how they've have conversations about like, hey, when I'm doing this, I need you to do that, and the
Mhm.
chemistry and building those things up. And um, that unfortunately, it doesn't come overnight. It doesn't come
No.
in a month. It doesn't even come in
No.
2 months. It takes
Some
time.
guys find it fast, some guys don't. It's just that there's not a blueprint for that.
Yeah.
You see some teams come together really quickly and then maybe reach their peak too early. And you see other teams that it takes a while to come together. And in MLS, you want to be peaking later.
Yeah.
So like you're building. I like that. I feel like Atlanta, and we'll bounce around the rest of the league here in just a second. I feel like that Atlanta has improved defensively as you've gone, because in terms of the way that they play, forget individual mistakes like the NYC game where it's all fluky things that you concede goals on. And I know that's a recurring issue, and this team isn't that team, and I think we need to be careful about those sorts of things. But you look at the Dallas game, you hardly conceded any chances.
Yeah.
I'm with Dyla on that. I think overall you played really well defensively, and I feel like the defensive way of playing has gotten better and better each game. And I like that they defend high up the field, and Latte Lot's a big part of that. Saba, as Kefsi says, Miggy, these are guys that you expect to defend. They are defending high up the field. I think at times maybe they can pick their spots to defend high up the field so they don't run themselves into the ground, but that's effective. So you're finding ways to be competitive as you're building that chemistry. When we see these longer stretches of control and high quality, and I think they're two different things. I think control, it was better against Dallas because one, they didn't get as many chances, and one reason why is you had the ball more. You
Yeah.
kept the ball a little bit more. You picked your spots a little bit better. Um, you need to do both. You need to be at your peak where you're seeing that quick passing, you're getting forward fast, and all those things. But yeah, there's times where you need to put your foot on the ball and you need to be controlling it and not letting the opponent get a sniff of anything. So it's a work in progress. Here's a question from Ropes that I will throw out there for you. Talking about DC, should they be talking to Miami for Gressel? Gressel is, I guess, being forced to live in a tent back behind the Miami practice field. Javier Mascherano, if you don't know Mascherano, one, I think what he's done in Miami has been so impressive. And I was right there at the front of the line saying that I'm not sure about this hire because of what he did with Argentina's youth national teams, but he's got them defending in a way that I did not expect. And it's fascinating having just seen their U16s and their U18s and their second team this past weekend.
Yeah.
What's happening at those levels, the way that they're playing, it is definitely something to watch. And I think you're seeing the template for the post Messi, post Suarez era, but you're seeing it with the first team. Think back to that game here at the Benz where you've got in the attacking half, they're in a 2-3-5. You know, the fullbacks are not not both fullbacks. One fullback and Jordi Alba's high up the field. The other is a central midfielder who's flared out to the opposite side. You've got Messi and Suarez doing really specific things in the way they're defending high up the field, not running around, not being crazy, but taking something away from the opponent. Suarez just sat on Sleesh and just made
Yeah.
it difficult for you to find him. He's not expending a ton of energy doing it. He's just being really focused with his work. And then others are chasing and running. So they're defending high up the field, which we didn't expect. Miami's really impressive. All that to be said, Gressel doesn't fit into that at all because Gressel can't defend and he
Right.
can't run. So Mascherano, which is the same conclusion that Tata Martino came to, which is the same conclusion that Wilfred Nancy came to. I can't play him when I need to defend. I can't play him in games that matter because of that. He's a luxury player.
Yeah.
Uh, DC, should they be talking to Miami for him? I don't know if he'd want to go back to DC after
Right.
the way they did him. When Wayne Rooney walked in the door and said, "Get this guy out here," and that's another guy who said, "Like I can't play him because he can't defend,"
Yep.
because he was a right back in DC at that time. He is going to be somebody that before this window closes, somebody's going to make a play for him, I would think. And Miami could probably use some cap space if they want to try to convince Mr. Kevin De Bruyne about taking a TAM deal. Just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
So it's a fascinating one that I think is something to watch over these next couple of weeks.
Yeah. I think, we've had this discussion about Gressel, because what you get out of Julian Gressel is an elite service guy
Mhm.
who cannot defend
Yeah,
at
and
all.
he can't play as a 10 either. Like that's the other thing that's so
Yeah.
weird about him is he's a he's going to get assists if you have guys on the other end of the cross. But you have to do so much scheme wise to make up for it. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
And the last 3 managers he's played for said it wasn't. And I don't think Wilfred Nancy and Tata Martino and now Javier Mascherano, I think they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So like it's how can you make it work? I mean, in my way of seeing it, I think the only thing you can really do is you got two options. You can play him as a right wing back where you're not asking him to run up and down. You're just basically parking him out wide. You've got a right center back who can play as a right back and cover the ground for him. And then your left wing back has to drop back and make like a pseudo line of 4.
Yep.
That's a lot of stuff
Yep.
to manipulate.
A lot of
Or
discipline.
yeah, or you're playing him as a right winger and you have a right back who's going to stay at home behind him
Yeah.
and just defend. You're going to have basically, as you see some teams starting to do, where it's essentially another center back playing right back. He's just not going to go forward because Gressel's going to stay high. You've got to sacrifice something to fit him into a team. I think there's going to be somebody in the league who will be willing to do that. I wonder what the price would be, and I wonder what that's going to look like. But that's another little, we've seen Gazdag move this morning. It's not official yet, but Tom Bogert's not reporting something that's not official.
Right.
So that'll happen. The Gressel move feels like one that has to happen before the end of the window here in a couple weeks, but I don't know to where.
I mean, I think DC is a good shout because it's
They could
for
use
all
it.
the things that we just said. I I don't know that you're going to lose anything by bringing him in. I know that maybe sounds kind of harsh to DC, but like you don't have much to lose by bringing in a guy
Right.
who I think what we just talked about Benteke and the service that he's not getting. At least Gressa will give him that in the
Yeah,
air.
true.
The early
100%.
cross is like that's perfect for Benteke.
If you're DC and you look at, the lineup they played in their 6-1 loss to San Jose over the weekend, you've got Derek Dodson as the right back. You play Gressel as the right winger, and you say, just whip crosses in, dude. Just
Yeah,
stay there. Just we'll find you eventually. Just hang out, make a sandwich, chill. We'll
yeah,
get you the ball, whip in across. Like that's
yeah.
all we want.
Top of the final third, just outside the final because that's
Yeah.
kind of where his kind of come in at. And I think that's where he's maybe best. Like,
Yep.
not the straight to the end line kind of cutback cross, like the
No.
ones that just
No.
kind of coast in and you're finding the guy that can get up in the air.
That's all you got. And it's the kind of player that these guys exist, and I think in MLS in a cap league, they definitely exist. Guys who are going to thrive on teams that are lesser teams because they'll make those sacrifices to
Yep.
make that player fit. But on a Columbus or a Miami last year, they're not going to fit because you need more to be at the top level. So that's an interesting one. DC would be one that could work. Toronto. I mean, obviously, I think you look at the bottom of the East and
Yeah.
you see teams that could maybe make that chance. New England is another one that who knows what happens with New England, and we're going to see them this weekend. I want to go over to the West real quick because we haven't talked about the West at all, and I'm all about equal time.
Yeah.
The Western Conference, we've had a chance to see more of the West this year with the new scheduling set up in
I
MLS,
love
which
it.
I like.
Me too.
Yeah, I feel like I'm more connected to the Western Conference. I would have never, ever, ever guessed that your top three teams in the West through 7 games would be Vancouver, San Diego, and Minnesota.
Nope.
I mean, that's
Nope.
crazy.
Vancouver to me, I'm sorry. I have to say this because I did it on Monday. Supporter Shield leaders, Vancouver
Yes.
Whitecaps.
Yes.
That blows my mind, and, like, I love it, though. I just think
Mhm.
because Vancouver has so much going on off the pitch, and, like, they've always just kind of, to me, floated down just kinda under the radar. They're whatever, especially for an East Coast guy, like, we don't see Vancouver often, especially with the way
Yeah.
the schedule was. Um, and then they come out, and they're doing most of this, not all of it, without Gald. They're still in Champions Cup. They're I mean, they're playing really, really well, and it's not that they're maybe playing the most fun soccer, but they're playing very disciplined soccer, and they're playing effective soccer.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I've enjoyed it when I've had a chance to see the Whitecaps this
Yeah.
year. You make the coaching change, and Vanni Sartini didn't do a bad job with
No,
the Whitecaps, but you've jumped a whole nother level. Now, is it sustainable? We're gonna find out. Is it 10 different goal scorers for them, if I'm
I
not
think,
mistaken?
yeah, 9 or 10.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because again, like, Gald is the one you think is gonna be, the guy, and then he gets injured, he's out, and they're still doing it.
San Diego has been the same kind of a surprise. You looked at the roster coming in, and it was kind of slow to build, and you're like, what do they have to work with? Uh, they've caught some breaks, to be fair.
Yeah,
They caught the LA Galaxy at their worst, and they're not a whole lot better right now, but they did put up a fight last night,
they
losing to
did, they
Tigres.
tried.
They tried. They didn't try very much in the opener against San Diego.
No,
San Diego also got LAFC when maybe they're a little distracted by CONCACAF and the looming battle with Messi and friends. San Diego's good, though.
yep.
I want to see how sustainable it is, but they've been very, very good so far.
I think also, like, the type of football they're playing is just it's it's just fun to watch for me. It kinda reminds me in a way, and I'm not trying to, like, completely compare, but, like, LA Galaxy last year, to me, was playing the most complete and fun football
Yeah.
that you had in the league.
Yep.
San Diego, maybe not to that same degree, but you have, moments where they can turn a game around, like, on a dime, and, we talk about discipline a lot. I think when you look at an expansion team, though their roster is not fully developed, up until the beginning of the season,
Mhm.
you have a lot of pieces already in place, and you've had a lot of moments for these guys to develop the connections that you don't otherwise see because essentially they have a very extended preseason as guys are trickling in, getting signed, all kind of getting to know each other. And there's also like this shared maybe responsibility, pride of like, hey, we're starting something new here. And you all get to experience that together. And I think that helps develop the chemistry. And San Diego is playing like a team that has chemistry.
Yeah,
Andres
absolutely.
Dreyer is, even when he's not scoring goals, he is involved in every way with everybody. Um, you have one of the best number sixes on paper right now in the entire league. Um, so I mean, I've enjoyed watching them. Is it a surprise? Yes, I didn't expect it.
Yeah,
Honestly, I
I
thought
didn't
maybe
either.
mid table, if that. But I've enjoyed watching them. They're fun.
Is Minnesota a top 4 team in the West when all's said and done, in your opinion?
Receipt. Here it goes. No,
Oh boy. Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't think
I
so.
I don't. I'm not all the way sold on them yet,
Me
but it's
neither.
been impressive what they've done. Austin, only 5 goals scored, but they're 4-2-1.
Yeah,
The offense, you would think, kind of in same as Atlanta situation, spent a lot of money on it. You would expect that it would come good. They're unbeaten in their last 4, 3 wins out of that. Portland, one that early on coming in, a lot of people had Phil Neville on a hot seat. They're
Yep.
unbeaten in their last 4. Dallas is a team that when we saw them in preseason, I thought they'd be better than they've been. And then maybe we saw some of that again in this weekend's game where they're pretty good. They're not
Yeah.
quite there yet, but they're pretty good. Um, you look towards the bottom of the table, and this is where it gets weird in the West because it's Vancouver, it's San Diego, it's Minnesota, it's Austin, it's Portland as your top 5. Go to Dallas and Colorado and San Jose as your top 8. That's leaving out LAFC. That's leaving out Seattle. That's leaving out the LA Galaxy. Out of those 3, LAFC, Seattle, LA Galaxy, do all of them make the playoffs in your mind?
Yes.
All of them.
All of them. I
Okay.
think so.
Okay. So that means that at least 3 of the top 8 have to fall out.
Yep.
At least 2 of the top 8 have to fall out.
So
Who
I
does?
would say I'm not convinced on Portland.
Okay.
I think
You do
they
hate Phil Neville.
yeah, yes.
I feel like I defend Phil Neville all the time. Like I like Phil Neville's work. I think he did better with Miami than he got credit
Yeah,
for.
for sure.
He had the severely handicapped Miami as they were waiting on Messi and folks to
Yeah.
arrive. For whatever reason, he's just become somebody that a lot of people want to take shots at. I think he's
He's
a good manager,
he's somebody's
but
punching bag for sure.
yeah, a little bit too much. It feels like. The question for them is going to be DaCosta, and is he the real deal? We'll find out over time.
Yeah. And to be fair, like Phil, I've never had an issue with Phil, honestly. I just don't know that roster is where it quite needs to
That's
be. I
valid.
think
Yeah,
I think maybe, to your point earlier about some of the teams punching above their weight. And again, you're what, 7 games in? I just don't know that they're sustainable. And I think if I had to pick one other to drop out, I think it's Minnesota.
yeah.
I gotta stick to what I said a minute ago, but I think Minnesota right now is way higher than they probably should be, and they're doing enough, but this is a second half league. Like, Seattle, I'm never gonna count Seattle out. I don't care where they're
Right,
at.
right.
And then I have to stick to what I said with the Galaxy going back into the preseason. Like, I knew coming in, we all knew that they had tons of injuries. Ricky Pooch is out. Um, Paintsel was out for significant time. You only had Peck. You lost a lot of your midfielders. Marco Royce hasn't quite come to what you need.
No, he hasn't.
Um, so, but I do think all that is fixable in the second half of the season. And I think now I don't think they're going to hop up to like 3 or 4. I think they
No,
might kind of come in, kind of near that line because
yeah.
if they keep shooting themselves in the foot, that's all they're going to be able to make anyway. But I do think they make it.
It's going to be a fun ride. The West is far more topsy turvy than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
The East is about what I expected, and you can quibble with where you thought people would be, but in terms of it being super tight, it's about there. Got a couple more weeks in the window. We'll see what other moves. If there's another big one like the Daniel Gazdag deal, Rich Ransom with some breaking elements of that story with us from Joe Tanzi in Philadelphia. Gazdag wanted a pay raise in the new deal. Union said no. Columbus said yes, and you get the deal done. Which, yeah, I mean, look, that's good work from Ernst Tanner and crew. If that's the case, and you decide, you know what, we're not going to give you a pay raise. We've already made our call. Somebody else is. Let's get a return for the investment. Which I'm gonna assume. Let's say it's 7 that you get 7 in cash, and you paid 2. That's pretty good. That's good
Yeah.
business. And now you can go reinvest the 7. My thing after that, after what Joe Tanzi said, my thing is Philadelphia better have a deal in place before the window closes.
Yeah, because otherwise you're shooting yourself in the foot. Again,
Yeah.
going back to the conversation about numbers, and numbers aren't always everything. You have to
No.
pass the eye test as well, but Gazdag is giving you, numbers that count to wins, and he has been a staple of the culture as well and has survived, a lot of the ups and downs and craziness. So, you have some time, but you don't have a lot of time, and I think the good thing is like what you said earlier, I think is a very good point. You have, is it Vasilev?
Mhm.
You have somebody that can step in that role,
Yeah.
And so maybe this frees up moving some other guys around to then hit on a position where you're genuinely weak. And maybe you don't do a like for Gazdag because you do have somebody there already, but you maybe you go after somebody that just fits Carnell's scheme a little bit better. Maybe Carnell has a little bit more of a say in it than maybe Jim Curtin did. I don't know how that, dichotomy is working right now,
Yeah, I
and
don't
we
know if
may
you wanna
never know.
fight with Ernst Tanner after the way things went down
Yeah,
with, old Jim.
but we'll see. I do think you're right though. You have to do something soon because a team that is near the top of the standings at this point, you can't go get rid of one of your main guys in just about every category without having a replacement.
I'll put it to, super Philly fan Rich, what position would you upgrade? Maybe center back.
Yeah,
Maybe it's 2. I mean, with the amount of money, if you have it, and I don't know Philly's cap situation, and MLS has gotten a lot better with transparency. We have a much better understanding, but we still don't know everything. So you've added cash. Can you split that over a couple of players and go get guys? I don't know where everything fits roster wise for Philly. Center back is what Rich
yeah,
says. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at to pair somebody with Glesnes and maybe even start to think about upgrading from Glesnes at some point in the future. All
100%.
right. We've got Dylan Butler coming up here in just a bit. What else is on your soccer mind that we've not talked about, Tyler?
I mean, obviously, we touched on Champions Cup, which
Who
Galaxy.
who wins tonight, Miami or LAFC?
I think Miami.
They take it on the night and they go through.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I
I,
think so
I
too.
think LAFC gave them probably what they could. I think LAFC has been playing a little frustrated. I don't think they're living up to what they want. I will say, and I've said it, I contend that they don't really fully have an identity right now for the players that they have on the roster.
I think they kind of do, but I don't like their identity. Is
No, I
how
think
I
their
would put
identity
it. I
sucks
think Steve
if they have
Cherundolo
one.
has made them a very not fun team, and maybe Bob Bradley had them as too fun of a team.
Maybe.
They didn't have the defensive element to it, and I always think to Seattle knocking them out in the Western playoffs and being like, man, this LAFC team needs a little bit of a spine. I think they've went too far the other way, where
Yeah.
it is the no fun team,
Yeah.
and it's weird. I've not been impressed, and I think Miami takes care of business pretty quick, and second half could get really weird tonight. I could see LAFC, like you said, the frustrating element.
Yep.
Um, there might be some cards flying.
Yeah. It might be entertaining for sure.
Yeah.
Which for LAFC and Miami, I want to see all the cards fly. I would love that.
Yes, I'm good with it. I wanna see Messi slap somebody. I mean, come on,
Me
let's
too.
just get stupid. I
Two for
emo
somebody.
emo Messi, who's almost like, and this was one of the running jokes we've had. He's grown the hair out.
Yep.
Kinda was going emo, kinda was going like, is he listening to My Chemical Romance right now? I don't know, maybe. But then he did that slicked back thing, and he
Yeah.
looked like Wall Street Messi,
I
and
know.
I'm
I
like,
was
wait
like,
a minute,
man,
now he's truly evil at
he's
this
part of the
point.
mob.
Yeah, like what's happening? Messi's gone evil on us. He's evil emo Messi,
Hey,
and I
accept the
don't wanna
villain
mess
role.
with that dude.
Especially if it comes out there tonight and it's like, yeah, you definitely got like the Wolf of Wall Street vibe going on.
Yeah.
There's gonna be definitely like we're gonna look back at some point between like now and a month ago, or maybe it was the playoffs last year. I don't know, but there's gonna be the villain origin story for Lionel Messi in there somewhere, and it's gonna be a documentary.
He's, already starting to get into World Cup Messi mode for
Yeah,
next summer. He's playing with different elements of the personality right now.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, it's a fun subplot. It's definitely a fun subplot. It'll be, very interesting on the Kevin De Bruyne side of things, and
Yeah.
if they can convince him to take a TAM deal and how all that works. And again, roster and cap, I just put my hand up at the stage and I guess.
I mean, if they ever want to do a masterclass for all other 29 teams on how to finagle
Yeah,
roster rules, I'll attend just
I
to
would.
hear.
I'd be fascinated by
Yeah,
that.
I'd be very curious.
What else you
Uh,
guys have coming up over at Scarves and Spikes over the next few days?
so we'll have the show tonight at 7. Jamie Watson will be hopping on with us for a little bit, and we
Tell
got
Jamie I said hello. One of the good
yeah,
people in the game.
absolutely. And we will be announcing a really cool giveaway.
Oh,
Yep,
that's a
yep.
tease.
Yep, got a cool giveaway that we're doing. And I'll say this, it's one of those like even obviously everybody watching this, everybody watching our show tonight, obviously soccer fans, but this is one that even if you're not a soccer fan, tell your friends and people
Uh-huh.
that maybe are not super, super into soccer that might like things like beer.
Things like beer, yes.
Yeah. So,
I like things like beer.
yeah. So, tell them to come check it out. We'll announce the giveaway, and it'll be going on through Monday, and we'll announce the winner on Monday. So,
Very,
quick
very cool.
turnaround.
All right. Well, appreciate it, Tyler. Always
Yeah.
fun catching up. You gonna be at training tomorrow?
Unfortunately, no, not tomorrow.
Okay.
I have regular work stuff, and Henry might be there. So
Okay.
one of us might be there.
Well, I will say hello, and I will see you Saturday afternoon at the Benz.
Absolutely,
And on your way out, say hi to Dylan.
I will. Bye, Dylan.
I
Bye, bye.
I and bye.
Thanks, Tyler. What's up, Dylan? How are you?
Good, buddy. It's been too long.
It has been too long. I've been running around doing all kinds of million things here, but filling in for John today. How have you been?
I've been well. I've been well. A bit busy up here in New York as well.
We're trying to make sense of Tom Bogert's scoop this morning. Daniel
Yeah.
Gazdag from Philly to Columbus. What was your reaction?
More and on one side, I guess for Philly, it's kind of this overhaul that continues, right? Like they are doubling down big time on the let's save some money, let's let's get some in our bank, and let's play the kids, right? It's their philosophy, and they're, like I said, kind of doubling down on it. And for Columbus, it's interesting because to me, what it said, and again, I'm not I'm not in their boardroom. I'm not, I don't, I'm not speaking to sources, but just from the outside looking in, it seems to me like they maybe took a swing or looked around and they couldn't find the like for like for Cucho.
Yeah,
They
possible.
knew they had to do something in this window. So they found, kind of the next best option, which is an attacking midfielder who has obviously been really productive throughout the course of his career, right? So I think it's a great move for Columbus. We'll see what kind of the price tag that is associated with it. It should be, right up there as one of the highest for this new mechanism that MLS has. But I think a great move for Columbus. Certainly, they get a proven goal scorer in this league. As now they can bide their time until the secondary transfer window and see what they have to shop for at that point. But I think a great move for them and for Philly again. It kind of reinforces, I guess, what they've been doing. They ship away a Jack McGlynn, and now they ship away a Gazdag. So I don't know how many more Sullivans maybe there are, but if there's
Can
more
any of them play
Sullivans,
center back?
you're gonna
That's
have
going to be the
you're just gonna
question.
have a team of Sullivans.
Yeah. Philly, we've talked a lot about the Philly side of it this morning, and I'm with you. Like, okay, do they reinvest? Are they going to pocket the money? Are they going to play kids? Does Vasilev come in and play more in this system? Maybe he's a little bit better fit, but you've got a stockpile. And, Gazdag was valued at 9 million on transfer marked. Does he get that on an internal move? Is it more in the 6-7 range? I don't know. It's still a lot. And you can go out and upgrade if you want, maybe not for Gazdag specifically, maybe another
Right.
position. I want to talk about the Columbus side of it because the more that I sit here and think about it, and you sell Cucho, and it's very late in the window, and I feel like it was the right move for everybody concerned. I think they did right by the player. I think ultimately it is what you want to do in that situation. When he gets the move that he wants, it's a good amount of money. Yeah, you're going to take a hit in the short term, which they honestly haven't in the standings because Wilfred Nancy is a warlock or something.
Yeah.
Um, but it almost feels like as I sit and look at it, I'm like, all right, you got Jason Russell Rowe, you got Diego Rossi. Gazdag maybe is more of the replacement for a player that they lost that we haven't talked about a ton in Alexandru Matan. Maybe he's more of that, and it's enough to get through until the summer where there could be some strikers available, and you go find that Cucho replacement in the summer, and maybe you're not spending as much. Maybe you spent more on the attacking mid, and you're going to spend a little bit less on a striker that is more of the system fit. I don't know. It's
Yeah, I
Wilfred.
thought more like, like you said, like I knew, look, it's not a Cucho replacement, but for me it was almost like a Zella Ryan replacement, right? And then
Yeah, good
when
job.
Kucha came in, like, he wasn't they were like, who's a replacement for Luka? And then Kucha came in and, obviously just changed that whole.
Rossi kind of becomes like, he
Yeah.
kind of was a replacement for Zella Ryan, but not exactly. Now Rossi becomes kind of a replacement for Cucho, and it shifts back around.
Yeah. And meanwhile, like you said, right? Like Nancy Ball wins. Remarkable, right? Like I
Yeah.
think Dax McCarty, his take on MLS season pass was like spot on, where he said, they lose, one of the best number 9s, right? Like in MLS, his replacement essentially is an MLS next player,
Yep.
and they still win games. They're still undefeated. They're still top of the table. It's remarkable.
It's so impressive, and I think it just is a credit to Wilfred Nancy, who's been the best manager in MLS since he became a manager in MLS. I think he's been that good. Kind of ended with Tyler looking over to the Western Conference a little bit, and I said the same thing to him. Like, I'm really thankful for the scheduling shifts that MLS has done this year, because I feel more connected to the West than I have been in the previous couple of seasons, where I just didn't get to see it as much because everything was at the same time. The West is, you could almost, not quite, flip the table from back to front and have predicted that that's what it would be from the jump. So LA Galaxy at the top, they're at the bottom. I ask him, and I'll ask you the same thing. So you've got LA Galaxy, you've got Seattle, and you've got LAFC right now in the last playoff spot. Do all three of them make the playoffs in your
Oof.
mind?
Wow. That is a great question. I do not think all 3 make it. I like right now, LA Galaxy are, like you said, they're last. They're winless. But I gotta give them a flyer
Yeah.
until Ricky Pooch comes back, right? Like
Same.
until they get healthy, and then let's see, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's been so good. He's been so influential. Paintil, like, so. We'll I want to give them a let's see. My biggest concern maybe among those 3, and I also feel like LAFC somehow they'll figure it out as well.
Yeah.
It's more Seattle to me right now.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't like, it just doesn't look good. Like, and they have been a habitual slow starter,
They have.
and they've rallied late, and they've proven a lot of people wrong, it seems like, in a lot of years, but it just doesn't feel that way this year, right? Like, I think it feels like too many eggs in the Jordan Morris basket, and unfortunately, like, he's been injury prone, and he's obviously sidelined right now with injury. Like, um, it's almost Sporting KC-esque, where when you build a team and you stay with that team, for a while, and obviously you get success with that team,
Hmm.
there's got to be a roster overhaul. And if you don't hit that quick enough, then it becomes really difficult, and guys get older, and there's more injuries. And
Hmm.
um I'm not saying that they're behind the 8 ball like SKC were, but it doesn't, like, among those teams, it doesn't look good. And then you've got, you know San Diego doing incredible things as an expansion team, Vancouver under a new manager doing great things. Uh, you know, Austin, while they haven't looked good in the attack, they're not conceding goals.
That's
So
that's been maybe the biggest surprise for me
yeah,
all
100%.
season. Like Austin, the attack. I mean, we're seeing it in Atlanta. You add a bunch of talented attackers. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, but there's a chemistry thing that you need to build. I would have never guessed that Austin in 7 games would have conceded 3 goals.
Yeah, no, 100%. And
Never would.
I wouldn't have had them anywhere near the top 4.
If you told me they only had 5 goals through 7, no way.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
no.
I'll flip it. So Vancouver, San Diego, Minnesota are your top 3
Yeah.
in the West right now, which is insane. Who falls the furthest out of those 3?
I don't know, because San Diego, they've also got the ability to splash cash in the secondary
They
transfer
do.
window, right?
They
So
do.
it's and they've proven, they've hit on their guys they've signed, right? Their system is great. So, your first inclination would be the expansion team. They come out guns a blazing, and they're going to fall off at some point in a 34 game season. Maybe not the way that they're set up. Vancouver, they're doing a lot of this without their best player, right? And
Mhm.
and one of the best number 10s in the league in Ryan Gold. So, um, it's oftentimes we say, well, when injuries hit, what happens with the team? Well, it's hitting and they're fine. Like,
Yeah.
they're thriving, right? And they're doing it in multiple competitions, which is almost unheard of. Like,
Yep.
usually your MLS form takes a major hit when you're playing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Theirs is the opposite, right? So, um, and then Minnesota, like, Robin Lod hasn't really, he's not gotten going. Uh, their dropping points has been a cause of concern. They did that in back-to-back games with the Galaxy and with Sporting, but uh, they might be the best when you look at their roster and their build. They might be the best of all those teams. So I don't know. I honestly, like, it's not a. I'm certainly not avoiding the question, but I don't know
No,
really between
maybe
those
not.
three. Right?
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. Minnesota's the one, and I think it's just the possession number kind of scares me, and it's been fascinating, like in this league, how I think to win, Atlanta came in and we're telling the stories of matches on the radio calls, and maybe 2017 and I know before that, but 2017 to feels like the last couple seasons, possession isn't as strong of an indicator, and this is worldwide too. This isn't just an MLS thing. It's not as strong of an indicator of control anymore. It's you have teams like your Phillies and your St. Louis's and your Red Bulls that control games without the ball. You have teams that like LAFC who are kind of they feel 50-50, but they have talented guys who can break you in a moment's notice, where it's not about really having the ball to do that, it's about a moment. However, Minnesota is like deathly afraid of the ball, it seems like at this point with their possession number, but they're still getting goals out of it and they're still getting it done. I wonder, just like we've had the conversation in the past about the Red Bulls, and they're maybe the poster child for it, of what happens in a playoff game, what happens in a big game where the opponent just says, you know what, I don't care about my style. I think you can't do anything different. Here's the ball. What are you going to do?
Hmm.
I wonder how they handle that. And I don't know yet. My opinion is still definitely being formed about Minnesota. I'm not sure about them yet.
Yeah, I wonder. Like, you bring up an interesting point, right? What's the more shocking development in the West? Is it the teams that are on top of the table or the ones that are at the bottom, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
don't know.
I don't know.
The West is wild. The East is really tight, like we kind of figured it would be. We can get into like who's where and all those elements to it, but as you look around the league, and we've talked about some of the surprising things to us. What are some of the other stories that jump out to you? I mean, we get into all of the main storylines, and I feel like they all get repeated no matter who you're talking to. What's something that has been genuinely surprising to you, either from a positive or from a negative, around the league this year that's not getting talked about as much as you think it should be?
Hmm. One thing I was thinking of, and it's not even so much a this year thing, but it's been the last couple of years. Like, and maybe it's a wait until the stadium opens for NYCFC, but like,
Mhm.
there hasn't been that guy. Like, and I'm not saying you have to go back to the beginnings and
Right.
David Villa and Pirlo and Lampard and the whole thing, right? But they haven't got that, not even a big name, but like a name that will draw people into the seats, right? Like
They haven't gotten even the Emil Forsberg
for
kind of guy.
sure, 100%. And obviously those guys across the river did. So,
Yeah.
um, and again, I do wonder if it's a wait. Like, when we open the
Right.
stadium, we bring in, X guy from, Pep is the manager. We bring in, X guy from Manchester City, whatever the case might be. But um, it feels like that it's a team or it's a club that needs that, like, injection of superstar,
Yeah.
and they haven't had it in a few years. Like, it's hard to ride the coattails of a Maxi Morales, right? He's not who he was.
He's still been he's blown me away a little bit as
Right?
I was
I know.
prepping for that game with NYC, and I'm like, he's still the focal point. And he should be, and he's doing
Yeah.
well as the focal point. I mean, he's leading the team in so many different categories at 38 as he's kind of remade his career after a big injury too.
Yes.
Like, just so impressive. One of the guys that I'll always remember an interview that Dome Tarrant did after he left NYC, just raving about the quality of player and the quality of person that Maxi is.
Yeah, he was always a guy like, I'm not around the training grounds as I once was, but when I was, and he was obviously there. It wasn't like his English wasn't there quite yet, but he always had that smile. He always had the thumb up, and super positive kind of a guy, Maxi Morales. And um, yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. When he had the knee injury, you were like, "That's it, right?
Yeah,
He's done."
that's exactly where I
When he
was.
wasn't re-signed, like, you're like, it was a great run. You're writing the story about how great he was and what he led the team to, and like you said, now he's back. Not better than ever, but certainly still really influential.
Yeah.
But that also then speaks to the, all right, so who's that guy, right? Like, there's no Tati on the team, like, uh, you know, I don't know. Like, again, I haven't, largely now my role in MLS, I was like, I'm a match night editor. Like, I'm in the home office. I'm watching 360 and just going
Mhm.
around the league. But so I haven't been inside the stadium at NYCFC in a while. But I wonder, like, when you look around to the jerseys, who are they, right? Like, are they just
Right.
the old school, like, Via, Pirlo, Lampard, right?
Mhm.
Like Harrison, maybe a few jerseys. Like,
Yeah.
who is it?
I mean,
Maybe a
even
Maxi,
Santiago Rodriguez had kinda become a
for sure.
little bit of that guy, now he's
Yeah,
gone.
yeah, for sure. Um, but I am jealous of you. Like, I was saying a couple weeks ago, I didn't really get a chance when Ronnie Dyla was introduced as NYCFC manager. There was a like a preseason media day in the city, and like, I got one on one with them, and we're just kind of chatting and BSing and just talking, and he was excited and was talking about how he was gonna live in Hoboken with his family, and then the pandemic hit, right? And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
everything became a Zoom call, and everything was,
Yeah.
so you lose that personal touch of it, and that's just kind of the way it went for the rest of his tenure, so in NYCFC. So um I'm a bit jealous that you get a chance to kind of, you know, see him on a daily, weekly basis. Such a great guy in
Yeah.
my limited dealings with him. But one of those real guys, right? Like, he will
100%.
he will, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, you're hearing it from him.
I think what I've been most impressed by with him, I mean, he's been great with us. It's been every manager's different. We've been really lucky the last couple that we've had. Gonzalo Pineda was great with us on the radio team. Rob Valentino, same thing. He'd been here forever, so he knew us really well. Ronnie has been super open with Mike and I. He's been just very transparent with us. But what I've really enjoyed is the Tuesday practice sessions that the whole session's open to the
Mm,
media and watching him work. I mean, little things, and he's so thoughtful about what he does, and that's what jumps out to me. Like yesterday, so you have a not you have a not great result, not a bad performance, a very frustrating Saturday against Dallas, where it's 1-1, and you can look at it and say, well, you created more, you had the opportunity to make it 2-0, you didn't, you give up a goal out of like one of three chances. It's just a frustrating point. It felt like it should have been more. And Ronnie, when they come out for training yesterday, leads the group in their jog to start. Like he runs with them, and there's some trash talking with other assistant coaches, and it's fun. Um, but then once you get into the session and they're working, they're really getting into some tactical elements of how he wants the team to build out. I mean, he's very focused on wanting the team to be better with the ball right now, and it's one of the elements that I don't think he's quite happy with where they are. He was very, very clear, and when he'll stop a portion of training, I mean, he's very loud, so you can hear what he's saying, and he's very clear in what he wants and how he wants it, but it's not in an unfair way, if that makes sense. You know, you get some coaches who are very loud and yelling and demonstrative, and you're kind of like, okay, was that necessary?
Right.
The way he does it, and then the way he follows up on it when he gets what he wants and he sees it and he responds to it. I love how he manages people. And that's maybe what has jumped out to me the most. I was interested in his tactics, but it's the man management side that has maybe grabbed my attention the most.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's spot on. And like you, I've been fortunate in New York City. Like, you go back, Vieira was so interesting, and like you said, you get the full training session, so just like watching him work, and especially with the younger players, like
Yeah.
the influence that he had, like a James Sands kind of jumps off the page, and guys like that. Dome, different but still like really interesting, and then like I said, I was looking forward to it with Dylan, and then suddenly, I remember, man, I remember vividly, like I was at Red Bull Arena. It was a CONCACAF Champions Cup match for NYCFC. And then everyone's like kind of checking their phones, like, wait, Tom Hanks has what? Like, what happened here? Like,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, everything shut down. Like, we were in a mix zone, and then that was it.
I was
So
having this
unfortunately, I didn't get
conversation last
big.
night with folks. We
Yeah,
were we were at the Estadio Azteca when the NBA shut down for CONCACAF, and it's just like, what? What is
yeah,
going on? And
yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah, I hate that you missed that opportunity to get to be around him more because the time that we're getting, I'm really impressed with him.
And I felt terrible for him, right? Like, think about it, right? He
Yeah,
comes over, and like he's about to be in New York City, and like everything that brings with
yeah.
it, and the culture, and his family was going to be here, and and Hoboken's just across the river, a cool place to
Hmm.
hang, and
Hmm.
yeah, everything for him shuts down. Like, he just became the manager, and yeah, wild.
Just craziness. I'm excited to see what happens with him in Atlanta. He's different and similar in the previous managers that we've had. You know, he's similar in the sense that he wants the ball. He wants to play entertaining soccer. He wants to attack. You know, he wants to do it differently. I think maybe a little more vertical than Gonzalo did, for example, but not by a wide margin. I mean, he's never going to be just he wants possession. So it's fascinating to see how it all comes together.
I
And
think it's gonna cook, man.
I
Like,
think so too.
it's
We're seeing
growing pains
enough.
early, obviously, but like, for the fans there, like, just to hang with it, man, because I think you're gonna be in for a fun ride. Like, once they get going, they're gonna be, you know, kind of going back. Like, we were just talking about, when you look at this past match day, like, Joseph kind of going, turning the clock back, and it's
Yeah.
I honestly, I feel like that it's got that feel, right, of those days when Atlanta was the team, with Miggy and Joseph, and that whole group, and it just takes a little bit of time, but I think they're the pieces are there for sure.
You're giving me an idea for something I need to do a deep dive on before this weekend because it does kind of remind me of 2017 in a way. Like 2017, you had a couple of outliers early that maybe alter our perception. You had that Minnesota game in the snow. where Minnesota was horrible in 2017. That was just a
Yes.
bad team. And you go up there and you blow them out of the water in the snow. All right, put that to the side. And the Chicago game early, where they had a red card, I think 5 minutes in, and you dominate possession. You have like 90% of the ball. You end up winning 4-0. Throw that to the side. I remember going into the Houston game, which felt like a big turning point. There were a couple other moments early in the time where the team was playing at Bobby Dodd Stadium where I remember going in, it was kind of similar to now. It's like, it's not quite all hitting. Almiron's not scoring goals like you need him to. When is it going to happen? And then it got there in places in 17. I think this group will get further faster, but it does kind of have some of that similarity of like not quite hitting on all cylinders yet.
Yeah, I think it's just too about, maybe getting pieces, getting the chess pieces in the right places as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, where's the best place for Miggy, right? Is it
That's
is
not a
it
clear answer.
centrally? Is it out on the wing? Where's the best place for Moranchak? Like, is it further? Is it deeper in the field? Than a 10. There's all kinds of everyone has an opinion on that, but I feel like once those chess pieces get into the right spots, they're going to be humming.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. What else are you looking for coming up this weekend in MLS? Any games, anything that jumps out to you?
Yeah, I mean, kind of this San Jose thing is interesting, right? Like, so they go to LAFC, and that's been their boogeyman really for since I think LAFC's come in, right? Like, it's funny, like it's not the Cali Classico because that's LA Galaxy obviously for so many years, but obviously there's a rivalry with LAFC too, but it's been one sided. Like LAFC has crushed them, and it's not the same LAFC team. They're dealing obviously with CONCACAF Champions Cup midweek as well. And how real is San Jose, right? Like, it's a legit question. I
Yeah, I don't
mean,
know.
you put yeah, exactly. You put up a huge number against DC. Well, that's fine. It's DC.
Yeah,
Now you go on the road. Now you go to LAFC, and again, they're not. I it it's frustrating a little bit with LAFC because like they're not
yes,
the
yes.
super fun attacking like.
They are no fun right now.
No, they're
It's
not.
very
They're
frustrating.
not. Like, they don't fit that city. They should be somewhere else. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
name a city to upset that city, but
Do,
it's not
do
that's
you
not
subscribe to
LA.
the theory? I was having this conversation yesterday about Real Madrid. So they go to London, they go to Arsenal, and they have a ton of injuries right now defensively. I get that. Carlo Ancelotti's got his hands full trying to just get a back line together. But do you subscribe to the theory that a big team, and LAFC in this league is a big team, and Real
100%.
Madrid's always a big team. Atlanta's a big team. I think they have to do certain things. Do you have to be entertaining if you are a big team in a league? I think you do.
I think so, and I think especially too, when and Atlanta is different in this sense, but, when you have multiple teams in the same market,
Yeah, good
right?
point.
You've got to. And
Yep.
the other team is, and
Yep.
they're the ones with the cup, right? So,
Yep.
yes, Galaxy are struggling, right? But when all of their pieces are back, we saw what they do last year, right?
They
Super
were
entertaining,
fun, really
right? Like,
fun.
so much fun to watch. Um, that's not LAFC right now, right? It's like pragmatic. It's like at least when they were a transition team, and they hit you on the transition, it was so fun to watch them on the in
Yeah,
transition,
sure.
right? But like that creativity has just been like choked out, and I don't understand it. Like, I think Doyle made a great point. Just about that's one of the things that made them so much fun over the years, right? Is maybe whether it was at Tuesta or whoever else in the middle of their field, um, being like really fun to watch and creative and like it's just been taken away,
Yeah.
and like I don't understand it. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and look, I mean, it's got them in CONCACAF. It's gotten them a cup. Very, very, very close getting them the cup, but they got it. They got it. You can't take that away. Um, I don't know. It's weird, and I think it's going to end up hurting them in the long run, but we'll see. we'll also see tonight with Miami and
Yeah,
LAFC in Fort Lauderdale. Do you think Miami gets it done?
dude, I'm not with the team they have, and I was surprised that Messi went 90. To be fair, on the weekend,
Yeah.
ahead of this game. But with that team, with the stars they have, with the secondary players they have, being at home, like I'm not, I'm not, uh, we're right now in the area of kind of pissed off Messi, and
Yes.
that's not the Messi you want to mess with, man. So,
No. We saw that here
um,
in Atlanta. Like really angry Messi in
yeah,
this league. I'm an Argentina fan, so I've seen that emerge at times. 2022 World Cup's a prime example, but the 2021 Copa America maybe is even more of it.
yeah,
Of like Messi, when in this season he's grown his hair out. He started slicking it back at one point. He was looking like emo Wall Street Messi, and now he's like he's got an edge to him.
yeah,
The moment, oh man, which game was it where one of the Argentine outlets like isolated it with him backing into a player and like backing and throwing an elbow, backing and throwing an elbow. Then the guy responds and he goes down and gets the foul, and you just know he like chuckled. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just he's gone to that level, and it's got to be scary for LAFC.
I think so too. Like, like if like this current version of Messi, like in his commercial, right, where he's on the beach
Yes.
and the tap runs out. He's not saying okay and playing soccer, right? He's slamming the glass down. He's like,
He's
let's go.
two-footing
Like,
somebody.
hurry up. Yeah, 100%. So
It's crazy. Yeah, I think Miami gets it done. I think they're gonna be an interesting one to watch, depending on who comes out of the other
I
side
mean, that's
with
that's the other part of it too, Jason, right? Like I root for situations and possibilities and like what you look forward to. Like
mhm.
y- I think you root for Miami to advance because you want to
Yeah.
look forward to that next matchup and who they might play and the entertaining show that Inter Miami is.
Either side, if it's Vancouver or Pumas, Vancouver, that creates the David versus Goliath situation
Yeah.
that we lived here in Atlanta last season, and that was a lot of fun. If it's Pumas, you get Messi in Mexico in games that
Yep.
matter, which is a huge deal. So either way, it's a big deal. I'm with you. I think Miami gets it done, and then we'll see what happens on the weekend for both of those teams if they have any kind of a Concacaf hangover. Dylan, I appreciate it. It was great catching up. It's been way too long.
I know. I
I'm
know,
going to
bud.
need to crash the party on Wednesdays more often.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. Or
Cool.
just double it up. Like you
Yeah.
guys tag team it.
Yeah, I'll just like sneak in. I've got the back door entrance. I can just
Oh, there
sneak
you
in
go.
and appear. So
Nice.
I think I need to do that.
Perfect.
Awesome. Great catching up. We'll be talking soon.
All right, buddy. See
Dylan
ya.
Butler, make sure you are following him on all your social media platforms. One of the grand pumas when it comes to MLSsoccer.com. If you guys have questions as we get into the last half hour of the show, it is Wall Pass Wednesday. That is an old throwback. I think John still uses that. Wall Pass means it's a give and go. So if you guys out there watching on whichever platform you are, throw questions into the comments. We'll take some of them. I got a few things I'll throw at you guys too, and I want to get reactions from you. A little bit of housekeeping. If you are not aware of our Fanaticos membership program, it's something a little bit different, and I'll walk you through our mindset on it. We have never wanted to put content behind paywalls. It's just something that we've always tried to avoid. However, look, we always need resources to do what we do, and we're trying to do a whole lot, and we're trying to do a whole lot between now and next summer, where we've got World Cup games in Atlanta as well. We're trying to tell that story. So the membership program is something new that we wanted to get into and provide something different rather than content behind the paywall. We want to provide discounts for you guys. And those of you in the Atlanta area, if you're part of our Fanaticos membership program and you get your ID card on the Chant app, you can show that at some of our participating breweries, our soccer pubs, our soccer retail stores, the Moxie Hotel, for example. You get drink and food discounts at the Moxie. We even have a resort in Costa Rica that you can get a discount at. You go to group.chant.fan/soccer down here/join. and it's $10 a year. It's a very low number for the year, and you get discounts, and you're gonna get your discount is gonna make up for that $10 really, really quickly if you drink beer or you buy soccer retail stuff or you go to the Moxie to see our Third Thursday event next weekend. Stuff like that. So that is the Fanaticos membership program. Group.chant.fan/soccer down here/join. Please join if you are able to. And thank you to all of you who already have. We're working on more and more things for you already in it. And we're adding new discounts all the time. We've got high school games as we get down to the last couple weeks of the regular season. A big one on Friday as Denmark travels to South Forsyth. I'll be on the call on that one. Looking forward to it. Going to be a fun trip up the South Forsyth. Some of the top teams in the state are in Forsyth County. We will be talking about that one, making a trip up to Whitfield County next week as Southeast Whitfield travels to Dalton. That'll be on Thursday. McIntosh and Stars Mill next Friday. John is doing the Soccer is in Session coaches show. That'll be back next Wednesday on the network. We try, and this is where it gets back to adding resources to do what we do. The high school game in Georgia is thriving right now. You guys know that we cover the college game as well, and it's always really cool when we see guys go from local high schools to local colleges, and we get to continue to tell their story. Guys going from the Atlanta United Academy, for example, and we were on those games on Saturday and seeing that transition over to local schools. Really fun to tell the entire story from the youngest kids, the grassroots, growing the game, all the way through to not even just Atlanta United, but World Cup games in the stadium that we get to call home. So lots of stuff on the SDH network. We're able to do more of it with more of you joining the Fanaticos membership program. And we're able to do more of it with partners like Kaiser Permanente, who has been a great friend to us, as you see here on the stream. And you see pretty much everywhere that we are, Kaiser has helped us be there. And we can't do what we do without Kaiser Permanente, without our friend Scott Flood at the Flood Project as well. Mentioned the Moxie Third Thursday event. That's going to be next Thursday. And it will be a kind of Atlanta United game day experience conversation. So not the on the field portion of it, but all the off the field portion of it. The supporters, people from the game day experience in the stadium. John Nelson is part of that for those of you who go to games at the Benz. Going to be a fun one, going to be a different show. That'll be next Thursday, 7 o'clock at the Moxie Hotel in Midtown. And you'll be able to see that on a delayed basis on the SDH network. If you are not following us on your social media platform of choice, please do so. That way you'll get all of our latest content. Please subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. That way you'll also get some of our latest content. A lot of it ends up in a lot of different places, but YouTube and the podcast stream, wherever you get your podcast, make sure you are downloading our latest each and every time. So I told you I want to get into some of your questions. Please keep firing them off in the chat. We're going to start with Rich. Have we talked about the panic that is set in by USWNT supporters? I didn't know we were getting into the panic stage. I try to manage my social media, especially when it comes to panic in the soccer world, and I feel like panic is unnecessary at this point because you are what 2+ years away from a World Cup. Emma Hayes has been very, very clear in wanting to look at young players and see what she has to work with in the pool. You look at the roster last night, it was a 2-1 loss to Brazil. Maybe the last touch of the game, Brazil gets the winning goal. Catarina Macario opened the scoring with a goal in the first minute. This is after a good 2-0 win over the weekend at SoFi Stadium. So you're not at full strength, so it's hard to judge. There should not be panic. Emma Hayes has done a great job so far coming in, winning an Olympic gold medal. I think when you look at what she is thinking with where the program is, this is hard for a manager in the sense that you want to win every game that you go out, and it's easy for a manager to be, I think, somewhat ego driven in this case, in this specific case, where you're going to qualify for the World Cup. You've got a ton of time between now and then. How do you get better? How do you put yourself into the position of being better in 27 than you were in 24 when you won the Olympics? It's a long time. you look at growing the pool and you look at what players outside of the established group can help you. And that's what she's doing. And that's going to cost her some results. And that's okay. I think honestly that will help in the long run. So there should not be panic on the USWNT side. There will be because look, it's what we do, right? We panic about everything and we yell and we scream and we stomp our feet. And if the US doesn't win every game and the men's and the women's side and all the youth national teams by 10 goals, somebody did something wrong and they should be fired. Let's not do that. That's not what we do around here. That's what we try to avoid. We try to bring a little bit of a voice of reason to some of these conversations. I think what Emma is doing is for the long haul, and we'll be able to judge this in 2017 because that's all that matters for her. That's all that should matter for her. Go win the World Cup in 2027. You've won the Olympics. You're the defending gold medal champions. You'll deal with that in 28 on home soil, by the way. 27, go win the World Cup. That's the goal for the U.S. women's national team every time out. Go do that. You do that, then I don't care about this. I care if this helps you get to that and winning the World Cup in 27. So that's what I'm going to judge it by. I think Emma Hayes is playing with house money after winning the gold medal, which was not expected when she walked in the door. So she's already done that. She's ahead of the game. She can try some things to make the group better for 27. And if that costs you a Tuesday night in San Jose against Brazil, who's a very good team, so be it. Kefsey, did you know Declan Rice could do that? No, I did not. And nobody else did either because he had never done it. That's what's so crazy about this is Declan Rice had never scored from a direct free kick in his senior professional career. I'm sure there is a U15 game somewhere where he did it. I'm sure. I got it. That doesn't count. He's never done that in a senior game. And he didn't just do it once, he did it twice. And he didn't just do it with any run of the mill direct free kick that takes a deflection or is pretty good or the goalkeeper falls down or is blinded by a laser from the stands or anything. He scored the first one, which the whip that he hit on it around the wall, I watched that back and the angle from behind it. I'm like, man, that's about as good of a free kick as I've seen in a long time. That's really impressive. And then he does the next one, which is even more impressive because he puts it in as perfect of a spot as you can do. Like you could stand at the top of the six with the ball in your hands and try to toss it there and probably not get it any better. Like it's insane to have never scored on a direct free kick and to do it twice at that level. Mind blowing. Absolutely mind blowing. Arsenal, I thought was really, really good. And I go back to some of the conversations we had back in the day about Mikel Arteta and people maybe panicking about Mikel Arteta. And, I don't know. I just don't know. And maybe he's not the guy. And he's the guy. Look, he's the dude. And he's done amazing work with Arsenal, who does not have the same budget as some of the other teams around, does not have maybe some of the talent that the other teams around. He's an incredible manager, an absolutely incredible manager, and Arsenal should keep him in place for as long as they possibly can. And he's got Real Madrid backed into the corner. They should be able to handle it, even with the pressure, even with Madrid. And look, this is not just your run of the mill team down 3-0. This is a team with two of the best attacking players that the world has ever seen in Kylian Mbappe and Vinny Jr. and Rodrigo into that mix. They didn't do a lot in this game. You know they're capable of doing a lot in the return leg. You know that, and you have to be fearful of that. The third goal was so important for Arsenal. Madrid is in a weird situation with all the injuries they've had. They probably should have gone into the market to rectify some of it. They didn't. Carlo Ancelotti is probably going to get pushed out at the end of the year. He's under contract for one more year. You've got Xabi Alonso waiting in the wings at Leverkusen. He kind of did the non-response about what could happen with him next. Look, let's be real. If Madrid and Florentino Perez say, Carlo, thank you. We're going to give you the gold watch. We're going to move on. We're going to go get Xabi Alonso. And you throw whatever you need to throw at Leverkusen to make that happen. And reportedly, there's a handshake deal anyway between Xabi and Leverkusen. And if Real Madrid comes calling, that they're not going to stand in his way. Leverkusen will be taken care of. Carlo will go maybe to the Brazilian national team, which will be a fascinating move. That's all in the background, along with all the injuries, along with some instability, along with a lot of complaining about referees, along with a lot of stuff. It was a little inevitable. I am disappointed in the approach that they took. I get it. You're dealing with a ton of injuries, but man, I mean, Madrid was so defensive, just putting everybody behind the ball, trying to get out on the break. It kind of felt like LAFC in a way, and what we've seen. And there is some comparison there. And it's like, just win the ball, get it to Vinny, get it to Mbappe, just let them run, and maybe they just make something happen because they're that good. When that's all you got, it was pretty good up until the first free kick. And then things start to get broken. Arsenal was building, they were starting to create more and more chances, but that broke the game open. I think Arsenal goes through. I think you look at who the most impressive teams in the Champions League have been, and it kind of brings us to today. Barcelona's got to be your favorite in the Champions League. Now, there's a ton of different things. Talk about stuff in the background with Barcelona. You've got legal situations in the background with Barcelona, with Dani Olmo and Paul Victor, and the rogue auditor who worked for the club for 4 days, who found $100 million, but the previous auditor and the next auditor didn't, which, yeah. Anyway, but Barcelona's been the most impressive team on the field in Champions League. They've been the most impressive team on the field in La Liga. When they've been good, they've been unbelievably good. They should get past Dortmund. Not really expecting any major issues there. The team that's a little bit of the wild card in Europe is PSG to me. Inter, you know what to expect, and they've got the lead going back into Italy. They've got a 2-1 lead. They're very good defensively. It's what they do. They should be able to get through Bayern and advance. Arsenal should get through Real Madrid and advance. I think they're going to have to sweat a little bit, but I think they'll be okay. Barcelona should get through Dortmund. PSG, I think, will get through Aston Villa. They've lost just one of their last 29 games in all competitions. PSG has been the most impressive in a situation getting through Liverpool, where they, dismantled Liverpool. Is that fair? XG, dominant. Shots on goal, dominant. Maybe those 2 games are the best that we've seen any team play in Europe this season. What Luis Enrique has done at PSG, losing the superstars, losing Mbappe, and there's the clip that's famous that has made the rounds. If you haven't seen it, go find it, of Luis Enrique in Mbappe's face, telling him to be like Michael Jordan and lead the team defensively and lead the team in work. And I don't think he ever got that. So you're in a rebuilding phase coming into this year. You got to figure out who the number 9 is going to be. They eventually figured it out with Ousmane Dembele. You got to get the team pressing and counter pressing the way that you want. You've got to get some individuals playing at a higher level, and you've got to build that mentality of, yeah, we used to be over here where it's just win the ball, get it to Neymar, get it to Mbappe, get it to Messi. They're just going to go make magic happen. And we're going to watch. Now it's collective. We've all got to fight. We've all got to press. We've all got to grind. And their performances against Liverpool were outstanding. And I honestly, for Atlanta United fans, I don't think it's a crazy idea to see what PSG has been under Luis Enrique, and to see what Ronnie Dyla is trending towards and what he's building and the things he says and what he wants. To see that kind of style in Atlanta with the pieces that you have. I think that's a little bit of that blueprint that maybe Atlanta United is trying to get to. Collective with brilliance on top, don't get me wrong, but collective. And that takes time. First half of the season for PSG, they were very good, and Liga, they should be able to handle that. Champions League in the group stage, it took them a little while to get going, but they have. And I would not want to see PSG in a knockout round game. I think Aston Villa is going to struggle against PSG. Although, as an Argentina fan, I do love Dibu Martinez already coming in with the hat with the 4 trophies that he's won. I think mocking France just a little bit, and he's already been in the situation once with Aston Villa. Dibu is going to provoke. That's what he does. I don't know if that's going to be enough against this PSG team. I think PSG will go through. I think Barcelona will go through. I don't know if either game will be as good as what we saw yesterday. I think they should be comfortable for the home teams in this one, Barcelona and PSG. We've talked about CONCACAF Champions Cup and what to expect with that tonight. I think Miami gets through. I think there could be a lot of drama and fun in that game from an angsty standpoint. But I think they go through. I think Vancouver puts up a good fight. Pumas should take care of business at home in their leg. Tigres got through the LA Galaxy, and look, LA did well. 3-2 on the night, 3-2 on aggregate for Tigres to go through. Cruz Azul knocking out Club America is a big surprise. Um, Sepulveda, the 34-year-old forward who has been great for Cruz Azul, he scored twice. They get through. They'll play Tigres. Big surprise as Club America has won the last 3 league titles in Mexico. A lot of talk in Mexico City about that going forward right now. Kefsey asks about the Rhode Island Stadium and just the cool element of that, especially for a friend of the network, Michael Parkhurst. It's stadium development is such a big part of soccer's growth in this country. And it's something that we at times maybe take for granted in some ways about just it should happen. It's going to get done. These owners have the money to do it. It's never that easy. This one has been challenging at times. I mean, it was announced December of 2019. That's a long time ago. It was supposed to be ready before now. You've had a lot of different issues, and funding has been part of it. And remember, I mean, it's announced in 2019, COVID in 2020. A lot of things got pushed around and delayed. You had a groundbreaking in August of 2022. Work got paused because of funding. Now you're at the situation where it has moved forward. And it's very cool to see the naming rights being done with it, with Centerville Bank being the official stadium naming partner. I'm looking forward to seeing more of these. Around the country, because when we talk about the growth, and look, this is a USL conversation as well, and this kind of plays into it for Rhode Island. You've got a capacity that what I think is going to be about 10,005, 11. You look at the way that it's laid out with the pictures of it being mostly done right now, and you see how it can be expanded. There is that possibility, but with USL needing 15,000 seat stadiums. Okay, that's something Rhode Island will have to think about if they are going to be in that top flight in the USL, that new top flight. You're going to need more people to build more stadiums. And if you look at anything that has been the driver of Major League Soccer's growth over the last 30 years, it's been stadiums. And Lamar Hunt realized that early on, battled and battled and battled in Columbus to get something done. Eventually put his own money down, got Columbus Crew Stadium built, and that started a wave. And yeah, Atlanta and Seattle are in different situations, but they have control over their venues to varying degrees. But in Atlanta, it's all in house. So um, it's a soccer stadium without being only a soccer stadium. Others, you have soccer stadiums that have been built, and you control the revenues coming into it. You control that naming rights deal for Rhode Island. That's great. You get these deals done. What Louisville has done, huge, 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 huge. More are coming, more need to come. It's such an important element. You go to Denver. I mean, let's go to NWSL on this. Denver is making news because they are the fastest club in NWSL history to hit 10,000 season ticket deposits. They're going to build 2 stadiums. They're doing a temporary stadium in Centennial. It's going to be 12,000 seats, and then a 14,500 seat stadium in Denver that's going to open in 2028. The Centennial part is going to be part of their performance center. the largest overall investment in a women's professional sports team in history, according to their controlling owner, Rob Cohen. When you can put that investment in, and I know when we talk soccer's growth in this country, we don't like to talk about the money. We have to talk about the money. That's how it grows. When you put that investment in, you create sustainability. You should anyway, if you do everything right. If you don't, and you go down the road of renting facilities or you can't get deals done, you can't survive. And this is not even just a soccer conversation. Like, this conversation comes up in every other major sport in this country. Why did the Braves go to Cobb County? Because they could be in a venue where they could control a lot of the revenue outside of it. They didn't have that in their previous home. They're in a much better financial position. It'd be nice if they spent some of that money on the team, but that's a whole other story. The Hawks, why are you trying to build Centennial Yards right next to it? Well, the owner of the Hawks, and, controller of State Farm Arena, that they have that land. They want to bring that revenue in. It becomes a real estate play. And that's important for the team being sustainable. The team's the anchor. The team's a huge element to this. Chattanooga Red Wolves are doing this, and we've had the conversations with the ownership at Chattanooga Red Wolves about what they're doing around that stadium. That's how the team survives. That's how the team thrives. That's the important element to being sustainable. So these stadium developments, I know we kind of look over it. We're kind of like, what does it actually do? Like, there shouldn't be any public money to it. But the team, it needs to be a partnership, is what it needs to be. And if the public money is used in a responsible way and is done to maybe do the space around it, maybe create some of the traffic flow situations, maybe some of the other areas, it can be a project that, yes, can be an economic driver, but can also be a community driver. That's what pro sports is, right? That's what college, that's what sports is. It builds community. So for Rhode Island, this is huge to get into their own home very soon, to have the money that's coming in through it. For other venues, for other things that you're going to need to see, whether we're talking NWSL, whether we're talking USL, Vancouver exploring building a stadium for the MLS side. I don't. NYC finally getting theirs. Miami will get theirs next year. These are the things that take it to another level. It is a necessary part of the conversation, and you're seeing other clubs around the world start to get into that situation as well. Talk about Italian football with Nick Alifi for any period of time, and one of the main things holding it back is lack of investment in stadiums, because you can't. It's very hard to build. Uh, it, the historical sites in Italy make it very difficult. It's very difficult dealing with the political scene in Italy. Juventus took a big step forward by getting a new stadium done. Milan and Inter have been battling it out with the municipalities for a long time. Others are trying to figure that out as well. We're seeing it in England with Everton moving into a new venue next year. That's going to be an interesting story. Um, Actually, I'll give you a tease. Make sure you are subscribed to the Off the Woodwork podcast over at 92.9 The Game. You're going to hear a little bit more about Everton's stadium, maybe later today, maybe early tomorrow. Trying to get some more content there as well, talking about the beautiful game. And if you missed out on Atlanta Soccer tonight from last night with myself and Madison Cruz, that is up for download in either the whole show form or the segment by segment form. I'm going to make a last call for questions. It's been fun catching up with Tyler and with Dylan today, and catching up with all of you guys. If you have any more questions, fire them off on a Wall Pass Wednesday. I'll give you a couple more things that were on my mind coming into the day, and we'll get out of here on a Wednesday. Caleb Wiley, if you haven't seen it, he assisted on Watford's winning goal yesterday, 1-0 win over Hull City. Watford is within 4 points of the final playoff spot in the championship. A little bit of a wild card, a little bit on the outside, but it's good to see Caleb Wiley producing. Good to see him healthy. He's had a rough year with the injuries at Strasbourg. Now he is on loan at Watford. Good to see him thriving right now. What Spain's women did yesterday, this might fly under the radar a little bit. They made history with their 7-1 win over Portugal. I didn't expect it to be that lopsided. Barcelona's women's team has been the best in the world for a little while, but this is the first time in history for Spain that every player in the starting lineup had played for one club, either now or previously. 8 of the starters are with Barcelona now, which is wild, but the other 3 had previously played for the club. A record-breaking accomplishment for Spain in the UEFA Nations League on the women's side. Big surprise yesterday, England losing to Belgium 3-2. That was a shock. Belgium is not a team that you would think would be able to pull that off. One more on Reading, and this came out this morning. If you haven't been following the Reading situation, and Jessica Charman's probably going to yell at me for even bringing this up at this point, the owner who has not sold, who needs to sell, who should have sold, he hasn't. He's been told he has to sell now. There was an extension. He failed the, I think they call it the director's test because of incidents involving his businesses in China, where things stand with that. He's told he has to sell, or the club's going to be kicked out of the EFL. Well, that was extended through April 22nd because they were in an exclusivity period with a prospective buyer. Well, their statement on March 27th talked about that. Well, their statement today says the exclusivity period has expired. Club representatives are now in advanced dialogue with an alternative bidder. That does not sound good. Negotiations are proceeding in a professional and positive manner with full recognition from all concerned of the need to bring a sale of the club to a conclusion for all stakeholders, including players, staff, and supporters. Yeah, they need to get paid. Um, According to the club, they have taken steps to ensure that the ongoing financial obligations, including taxes and payroll, will be met in full, and they'll let us know more soon. They got 2 weeks, 2 weeks to get this done. Their buyer that they were negotiating with, not anymore, I guess, or maybe they're just in advanced dialogue with somebody else and they're still talking to the other one. You hate to see this stuff, and I hope that Reading can get it figured out, not just for Jess, but definitely for Jess. I hope that it can get figured out for the great fans of a great club with a ton of history and a lot of connections to U.S. men's national team players who have been at Reading over the years. Hate to see this sort of stuff. It is the other side of the promotion relegation argument and battle in different parts of the world. There's great stories like Birmingham City, who is now going to get promoted into the championship. Wrexham probably going to follow behind them. Going to be a lot of talk about the promotion side of it. That's great. When teams get relegated, and Sampdoria is one to watch in Italy, they are a very, very proud club in Italian history. They were relegated from Serie A. They're in the second division now. They've been through, I think, 4 managers this season. It's very, very bad. They are in 18th place. They're probably going to get relegated out of the second division to the third. And there's been a number of clubs that in Italy you've seen do that almost double back-to-back relegations. We don't always hear from them again. And that's the sad part of promotion relegation. And you love the good stories about it, but you have to be cognizant of the negative stories as well. And it's something that Reading has gone through. I mean, this is a club that's been in the top flight. This is a club that is not, and this is a club that is a couple weeks away from, at least according to what the football league has said, a couple weeks away of being kicked out. That'd be a horrible thing to happen. If Sampdoria goes into the third division in Italy and can't ever get out of it and goes bust, it'd be a horrible thing to happen. And we've seen quite a few different clubs over the years in Italy go bankrupt and have to be reformed and find a way forward for their fans and their communities. So, all things to keep an eye on as you continue on your Wednesday. Thank you so much for taking some time and hanging out with us on the SDH network. John will be back with you tomorrow, I believe, from a hotel after his big day at Augusta National. I'm sure he's going to tell you all about it tomorrow. I hope he's got a polo shirt for me. I think he was allegedly going to try to acquire that. Thank you so much to Tyler Pilgrim of Scarves and Spikes. They have a live show tonight you can check out on their YouTube channel. Thank you to Dylan Butler as well. A lot of conversation about the breaking news of the day. Daniel Gazdag moving from Philadelphia Union to the Columbus Crew. We got a ton of content coming on the network the rest of the week. Training Ground Dispatch tomorrow with myself and Madison Cruz. That'll be in the afternoon after Ronnie Dyla speaks to the media, after we get a chance to see the training session getting ready for Atlanta and New England. On the weekend, we got high school games on Friday night, Denmark at South Forsyth. I'll be on the call there. And then it's an afternoon game for the first team on Saturday. Also, tomorrow night, Atlanta United 2 on the road at Philadelphia Union. That's going to be a 6:30 pregame, a 7 o'clock kick. Hopefully, the game can get concluded in one location and in one venue and in one day this time around. Still crazy that we did a behind closed doors game at the Benz on Monday morning. And thank you to everybody who checked that out and listened to that. That was a lot of fun to bring you from the Benz. That's going to do it for me for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Make sure you're following Soccer Down here on all your platforms. And I'll be back with you again soon on the SDH network in some form or fashion. And big thanks again to Tyler and Dylan for hanging out with me. Adios. Mucha plata, y'all.